Hello grade 12s. Today I am looking at paper 2, question 3, which is the isometric drawing. This is a past IEB paper and it is the 2020 IEB paper. What do we have here in this isometric? They are generally asking some type of a section, and this one is a half section. Here we've got the cutting plane AA, there where the lines are darkened, indicating the part that has been cut out. When we do these, I like to look at the first thing to do would be to draw any constructions. So here we've got a hexagon which we'll need to draw in the construction area, and over here we've got a rib or web in the construction area. They will also always be testing your circle. So please remember all of those aspects that they're going to check to see whether they're able to draw. So the hexagon construction, what they've done is they've given us the distance between the parallel points. That construction method means that we've got to draw a circle on the inside of this shape. So I would draw a circle with a diameter of 44. So what I've done here is I've drawn these parallel lines, and the measurement is on the center 22 up, 22 down for that distance. I'll take my compass, set it to the radius of 22, and draw my circle, set that inside of that shape. Once I've done that, I can draw my tangents at 60 degrees.
Okay.
And there would be the construction of the hexagon. Again, just check your measurement. That height is 44. Now to draw the rib. If I look at the rib, what they tell us that this distance here of the rib is 20. So meaning this distance is 20. So what I want to do is just create a little L shape. There's my L shape. I want to mark off my distance of 20 and then draw a 60-degree line. Now here we should have one mark for the hexagon, one mark for our triangle, and we've got our 2 marks for the construction. Now please let's remember, with this drawing we are working to the time frame of trying to complete this drawing in 40 minutes. So I'm looking at my start time here at 9:50, and that means I want to be finished by 10:30. Please stick to this time frame, because otherwise if you don't, you'll have less time to complete the other drawings and you might be losing out easy marks. So please get used to drawing at the speed. Always draw using this time frame and stick to it. Don't overrun the time. So as I get ready to do this drawing, this little corner has been cut out, and what I want to do is try and break this shape up into this base part, maybe the stem and the circle with the hexagon inside of that. So don't look at it as complete shape before we've got to cut everything out. Try and build it up, draw that base, then the stem, then your circle and hexagon on top of that. So I'm going to start by drawing the base, start by projecting my isometric axis, get the measurements for my base and get that started first, and then take it from there and build up. You can draw the whole shape first and then cut it out. I do think that just takes a little bit longer because you've drawn that extra shape and then you've still got to work out what is cut out. So ideally try and cut this part out first. I think it will save you some time. So that is how I'll work it. I will cut out this shape while I'm doing the drawing. I'm not going to draw my completed base stem and circle. There I have my isometric axis. I want to just check how this is all going to fit into my shape. So the idea is that if this point is P, on this side I've got my distances of the 40, 10 and 10, giving me my distance of 60. And on this other side it's also 60, but the idea is that if I come and bring that down, this must be on the left hand side then, because then that's where point P will be. Okay, well, this is a square, so you can't go too far wrong with that. Okay, so start marking your measurements off. Here is the right hand side of my shape. Here is where the cutting plane is, and I'm now going to draw this left side of the base. Here I've got the left hand side of my shape, and now I can project from the right to the left and from the left to the right to complete my base. And over here I've got what my base is going to look like, with this little part being cut away. I've darkened the lines a little bit so it's a bit more visible for you. Again, maybe you shouldn't be doing that first up because you might not be sure of what you're going to see as visible and what would be the invisible aspects to it. I think what I want to try and do is come up to the top here and get my square for my circle construction. Remember the basics of the isometric circle construction is going to be to draw the square equal to the diameter, and that diameter is 70. So I'm going to try and find the center. They tell me from the top of the base at 75 up to the center, and with the orientation I know that I'm going to need to find a point over here. So I'm measuring a distance of 10 along that axis. I'm projecting this line vertically, and on that line I can mark off my 75. Every couple of minutes just go back and check that your measurements are all accurate, so that you don't get to the end and suddenly realize you have made quite a mistake with some of your measurements. So every 15 minutes or so, maybe just go back and measure a couple of your measurements. So I know that this distance was supposed to be 60. I'm happy that that's 60. It was a square. That's 60. My height was 25 and a 10, 35. There I've got 35, 35. Okay, so a good way just to make sure you've got your measurements correct and don't suddenly have a big problem. So here is what I've done. I've projected a line over here. I've measured up my distance of 75, and I'm going to now mark this distance of 35. So there's my two measurements of 35. Put in my 30 degrees. And 30 degrees. Mark off one distance of 35 on either side to complete the square. And there is my square. There is a 100% chance that you will get some form of arc or circle to draw in your isometric. So you need to know this construction. My method is the following. I've drawn my square and I've got my centers in. I then look at the distance between the midpoints, and what I can tell is that that distance is shorter and this distance is longer. So I like to refer to this as my big R, because I'm going to draw a big radius arc there, and this one is my small radius. Conversely, that would be my big radius and small radius. Now, over here at the base, I'm going to have this little vertical that's coming up here. So what I want to do is just mark off that distance, and the stem is 20. So on this left hand side, I'm just going to mark off a distance of 10, so that I know where my arc needs to stop. So my construction then, put my compass in the opposite corner, extend it to the midpoint, check then that it's touching the midpoint, check it's touching your bottom midpoint, and then you can draw in that arc. Now I'm not drawing this arc over here. Why not? Because I need to move it back a distance of 10, because this part has been cut away. So I'm going to then draw my next arc over here. My small arc, my construction is to draw in the diagonal. Now this is where it's giving me some feedback. Does your line touch the corner, the center, the opposite corner? Then your square is correct. Draw in your big arc. So when I drew this big arc, I had my compass here, and I extended my compass to that point. So I draw that line in. Where that intersects is my center for my small radius. Same on the other side. Now remember, this one I don't need to use yet. I'm going to use this point and extend it back to find where I'm going to need it later. Okay, so here's my center point. Take my compass, put that at that intersection, my center, get my distance to the midpoint, check that it's touching the midpoint, check that it's touching the top midpoint, and I can draw that arc. So I there have this edge of the circle which I've completed, and the other sides I need to move back a little bit. Again, on this vertical line here is where I'm going to find my hexagon. So I'm now going to go into drawing the hexagon in the space provided. There are two methods of drawing isometric angles in an isometric drawing. One is to use the fishbone method, where we take something like the spine, which will be a center line, and then we take the ribs to each point. Now basically what we're doing is we're converting this into vertical and horizontal lines. The second method would be if we had to draw a box around the shape. And what you can do is draw that box. Again, what we've done is we've converted the shape into horizontal and vertical lines. I'm going to use the fishbone method, and I also like to use what I refer to as the paper trammel, just because I feel I can mark off my measurements quicker using this piece of paper than using your compass. Now, your teachers might ask you to use your compass or dividers to take the measurements. That's fine, but as I said, I use this method, which I feel is accurate enough, and because I can mark off a number of different measurements at the same time, I feel that it is faster. So here I go. I'm marking where the center line is to use as a reference. Mark the top and the bottom. Bring this across to my isometric. Line it up with the center, mark it across, and now I draw in my ribs. Now again, remember this part has been cut away, so I'm not going to necessarily need it at the moment, But what I can do is put it in and then project it back to where it actually needs to be. Now I need to take the measurements from my center to get the ribs. So here is the center, here is the rib, there is my big rib, and there is my small rib. Bring that across, line it up. There is my small rib, and I'm going to mark it on both sides. Here is the big rib, small rib, and big rib. So if we had to just join that up, this is certainly what's visible on the side because that wasn't cut away. On the other side, this has been cut away, so this isn't actually at this point. As I say, we're going to use those and project them back and find where they will be later. So there is the construction of my hexagon, where we've used the construction over here and transferred that into our shape. I'm going to start adding some depth to all this shape now. So I know from here to the back is a distance of 20, and this part that's been cut away is a distance of 10. So from these corners I'm going to mark back a distance of 10 and a distance of 20 just to find where the end of those shapes are. Over here I have projected a lot of my lines going back, and I'm going to mark off those measurements now. So from this corner I know that 10 of it was cut away and it finished at 20. Here for the hexagon, it was going back 20, it's going back 20, was going back 20. This corner needs to go back for the arc of 10 and 20. Here I've got that base of the stem going across 10 because 10 of that was cut away. Now I want to try and find some of these arcs that I need to draw in. So what I can do is the following, is take where the center point was for the arc and mark it back the distance. So there was the center point for my big arc. I need it at a distance of 10, which is on that arc, and there's my distance of 20. What I can then do is come and set it up to the big arc distance. So here was my midpoint. Check that it's touching that midpoint. Check that it's touching that midpoint. Now move it to that distance of 10, and then we can see it's touching that mark that I've got there, and it's touching the mark up at the top here, and there is that one. And then it also needed to be back a distance of another 10 to give us a total distance of 20. So here we've got the top of my shape. Here was where the arc goes back, the cutaway part. There was that little aspect that was cut away. Now I need to do that same thing for the small arc. So here is where the small arc is. And I'm marking back that distance of 10 and 20. Come and get the distance for my small arc. So here was the center point of my small arc. I take that distance to the midpoint and I move it back that distance of 10. There, it's hitting there, and I know it's going to come down and hit this vertical. Go back the distance of 20, it should be hitting that back point, and I can draw that arc, short arc. I've stopped it there because I'm going to need to project the tangent here, and now I can complete that arc. Okay, so there are my circles there. I need to do one more arc here at the top. So it's going to need to be that distance away. Now if I extend this arc, there's the intersection. And there we've got our top arc. Here is the corner coming down to the end of, no, that's not right. Here was this corner where we projected the bottom of the hexagon here, projected it back to that vertical. Here is that line going across here. On this corner I've marked back that distance of 10. And here is the hexagon on this side. Here we've got the same aspect going out there to the edge of this vertical. Here is our stem and the hexagon. Now here is the back of the hexagon. So there was that distance of 20 back. That corner then is going to join up to a distance of 20 back here. There's my distance of 20 on that side. So I can join that corner going up to that corner. And then what I can do is draw this side parallel. So line up the slope, put another ruler down, and then I can just draw in that little tiny piece going at the different angle. Okay. So there is our circles done, most of our stems done, and I now need to just put in my ribs. Now we've done the construction of the rib, and what we need to do is take our vertical height. Here is the triangle. Get that height that I've got here, mark it off on the vertical here, and I can then join up the start point to the end point. And there is that aspect there. Now the rib has got a width of 10, so I can then mark off a distance of 5. Mark off 5 at the top, 5 at the bottom, and then I can join them up. The rib here on the other side, so what I'm going to do is project this line across, project that line across. From here I know that this distance was 20, which gave me this point, and what I need to do is measure 5 to the left here, because on this side it wasn't cut away. At the bottom here I need to measure 5 to the left. It gives me that point. So these two line up now, and that's this little piece that I'll see over there, and then the 30 degree. Now I've got most of my shape. I'm just going to darken out any aspects that I haven't done already. Okay, so there I've got most of my shape done in my outline, and now I need to just put in hatching. Now remember, because this is a sectional, half sectional view, what happens is we've got one cutting plane moving this way, the other cutting plane moving that way, so our hatching has to go in opposite directions as well. Remember, our hatching in the isometric drawing is at 60 degrees. Hatching should be a medium line. So there's my 60, and space it nice distance. We don't want to spend all day putting in hatching in our drawing. So I'm spacing mine at about 10 millimeters on a horizontal 10 millimeter. And there is that hatching. Now go the other way. To show that the cutting plane is a different place. There is my hatching done, and I'm going to finish this off by putting in my center line for my circle. So here is the center, long dash, space short dash, space long dash. Horizontally, did the same thing vertically, long dash, space short dash, and then my circle travels in this direction. So long dash, short dash, long dash, and the back circle is along this line. So I could put another center line there, and where my cutting plane is over there. Okay, the time is 10:26. So I've finished my drawing with 4 minutes to spare. What you can maybe do is just check your assessment criteria. Now, have I got my isometric circles? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Not sure where the 8 marks come from. Hatching and no hatching, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 areas. I'm hoping this hasn't been hatched because it's the rib, so that would have been a non-hatched area. Okay, there's 48 points. I think I've got most of those, and hopefully we have drawn those accurately. So there is the end of the 2018, my apologies, the 2020 paper 2, question 3, isometric drawing.